You know I'm right. The podcast that uncovers the origin stories of some of the biggest names in sports, media, reality TV, entertainment, entrepreneurship, marketing, and so much more. Nick Durst here, along with Joe Calabrese. And Joe, are you ready for the Zach attack?
Absolutely. This is the part of the year where we get all of our favorite Big Brother house guests to come on the show with us, becoming the go-to podcast for reality TV. So you kind of spoiled it a little bit, but we would like to welcome our guest at this time. He was definitely the ladies' man of this season of Big Brother 27. We welcome Zach Cornell to the show. Zach, I see you're a little embarrassed, but you know it's the truth. You know I'm right. That's why
Hey,
you're on
Vince, I
the
thought
show.
Vince was the ladies' man.
We'll debate that as the show goes on. But Zach, we welcome you to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you guys doing? Thank you so much for having me on the pod, by the way. This is incredible.
Yeah, we are excited to have you on with us. And I know you got a lot going on now post show, beforehand, big marketing guy. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, the first app you're checking on your phone every day, what is that?
The first app that I'm checking on my phone every day. In the most brain rot way, TikTok for sure. So it's bad. Especially right now. It used to not be that way, but after you get off the show and you get overwhelmed with a bunch of, people like reaching out to you and all of that types of stuff, TikTok is definitely the first thing that I check. And I'm trying to correct that, right? I'm trying to get a little bit better and do something a bit more productive when I wake up with my day. But right now, it's currently TikTok.
All right, fair enough. So you, of course, much like us, great baseball player. You better than us though. You played college baseball, two-time NAIA All-American,
Yep.
outfielder. So talk to us about, just the love of the game
Oh
and,
my goodness.
being able to play at college is not something a lot of people get to do.
Yeah, I mean, first off, this is gonna be a fun podcast, right? Because whenever I'm able to talk about baseball, this could last for 2 hours. But no, I mean, my baseball story was definitely unique for sure. So, I had the opportunity to play minor league baseball for the Washington Nationals, which was very cool, but it wasn't like an easy road. So I definitely had to go small school out of high school. So I went to two NAIA schools. The first one was Middle Georgia State for 3 years. And there, I kind of found my footing when it came to who I was and my identity in baseball, right? There was a moment I got benched freshman year and I kind of just rode the pine for the rest of the season. And I told my dad, I was like, my sophomore year, either I'm starting for this team or I'm done. I'm done with baseball for good. And at that time, I had a girlfriend and she was like an hour away. And I was like, I'm just going to go to that school, probably join a frat or something like that, right? And kind of go that route. So I gave everything I had that off season. I put on 15 pounds. I like made sure that I was completely in tune with myself. And then I go on to win, All-American honors for NAI that year. And then it kind of transitioned into my junior year winning, conference player of the year. And then I ended up transferring to the number one school in NAIA, Southeastern University. And that was when COVID happened, right? So at that point, because NAIA is really interesting because it's kind of like the Wild West when it comes to college and collegiate sports, right? So we had a lot of people that either through grades or through trouble, they would transfer to NAIA schools. And because Southeastern was the number one school, we had a lot. I mean, our entire lineup was filled with Division I athletes, right? And so I think a lot of people don't understand that when it comes to NAIA, they kind of see it as, oh, it's less than Division III. Well, we played my senior year, we played the Detroit Tigers in a spring training game, and they had to walk off the game against us, right? So if that gives you an idea of how really sound our team was, I remember my senior year, we were 26-1, and we are the number one team in the nation. And that's when COVID hit and our season got canceled, right? And so at that point, what is that? Oh, sorry. I think hold on one second. I'm in a hotel room. I don't know what that is.
I think it's the Nationals calling you back.
The
They're ready to
Nationals, they
they're
want me
ready to
back.
sign.
Let's finish.
Very clearly going to need him.
I think Joe, Zach, if you're watching on the video, he's picking up the hotel phone. Could be an NIL deal coming
That's
his way
right.
right now, or some. Obviously, he's probably getting a lot of endorsements now, Joe, host the show.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah, I can't wait to ask him when he comes back into the frame about the NIL stuff and all the rest because yeah, as we work at a local college, right? And we've known some friends through the years who have moved up the baseball ranks, played college, played in the minor league system. So here he is, he's back.
I'm so sorry. I
No, you're
apologize.
good.
Housekeeping came in and they're like, "Do you need anything?" I'm like, "Well, I'm a little busy right now."
No worries.
No, so yeah, my baseball experience was weird because I was at a point where I was about to quit, right? And then I kind of pushed through and I really just gave it everything that I had. And then after the COVID season happened, I had a bunch of basically the MLB draft went from 40 rounds to 5 rounds, and I
Right.
was told by a bunch of scouts that I was going to go rounds 5 to 10 my after my senior year. And I had the Nationals, I had the Royals, Mariners, Blue Jays. I had a bunch of different teams that were interested. And it was very unique because when I got the call from the Nationals, because I was after round 5, I went as like a signed free agent, essentially is what it was. But it was cool because they were all kind of bidding, which is interesting. It was a different type of aspect, and through that, I was able to get my entire master's paid as well. So I was very
Wow.
blessed through that process. So yeah, I'm still reaping the rewards from my baseball career for sure.
All right. So I look at you. To me, I'd profile you as an on base guy stealing bases, but that's not you were a power hitter. You were slugging.
Yeah. I mean, when I was playing baseball, I was 220 pounds. I tried to steal bases, but I ran like, I think my fastest 60 was like a 6'7" 60, which when you get to minor league baseball, you've got, people running 6'2", 6'3" 60s, right? And they're able to steal 40 bags a season. So it was interesting because when I was in college, I had the opportunity to steal whenever I wanted to. When you get to professional baseball, however, guys are throwing 100 miles an hour, catchers are throwing it right on the bag. So there's a bunch of different things that, I had to basically fit my role when I got to minor league baseball. And so yeah, that turned into me just essentially being a power hitter when I got to I was
Yeah.
basically a corner outfielder. So yeah.
Right. So you get there, Nationals, the complex down in Florida.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the worst bus rides.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I can tell you about the worst experience that I had. So I the worst situation for me was I got sent up and down from rookie ball to low A at least 2 times
Oof.
during that one year that I was playing. And so, that ride was over. I can't even remember. I had to stop. So I live in Georgia. I'm based out of Georgia. So like I had to go from West Palm, Florida up to Fredericksburg, Virginia multiple
Ugh.
times that year.
Ugh.
And it was a very brutal transition, as you're trying to get acclimated to it all. But I would say like the worst situation that I was in was when I was living in Virginia. I had 7 roommates. We were
Oh,
all in
jeez.
this
In
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 this
a
one.
one bedroom.
Yeah, it's like we're basically just holding hands the entire time, right?
That
And
sounds like
so
my Jersey Shore house.
yeah. And what's funny is, it's cool though, because when I look back on it, I actually use that to my advantage to get on Big Brother as well, right? Because they're asking me, how does professional baseball apply to you having the opportunity to play Big Brother? And I'm like, the living situations, man.
Yeah.
You're in that really small, tightly wound area with a lot of different personalities. It's very cutthroat in baseball, and it's going to be the same thing in Big Brother. So it was one of those things where I was able to use it to my advantage. But I would say definitely having 7 roommates is something that I would
Yeah.
never, let my worst enemy experience. So that was definitely the worst, the most struggle when it came to minor league baseball.
Yeah, I used to broadcast some minor league baseball, and a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the ball players.
Yep.
That's what you
Yep.
guys are living on.
It was funny because just for kicks and giggles, I decided to go vegan for the full year before I started playing like minor league baseball, and then I did it just to experience what it felt like and like how people responded to it. And right before I got the call to like go report, my dad's like, you know what, you should probably try Chick-fil-A again. You should probably get back into it because you're going to be living on the road, and all you're going to get is whatever they give you, right? And so yeah, it was a crazy experience. I think it definitely helped me build my character though as a person. So
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about getting out of it because when you're an athlete and you're young and you're moving through and you think there might be a path for you, and then all of a sudden it kind of just stops, right? Life hits you. What type of foundational work did you do beforehand to make that decision to officially retire from pursuing a Major League Baseball career and pivot?
Yeah, so I mean, I ended up getting released. Okay, so it was one of those things where it kind of came out of nowhere. I was really finding my role in the organization, where I was at, the development. I remember the day that I got released, we were playing a doubleheader, and the hitting coach was like, "Zach, you're really coming on." He's like, "I like what I'm seeing." He's like, "When next year happens, when spring training happens, you're gonna hit the road and like hit the ground running and like you really get
Yeah.
after it, right?" And so, a game after, it's like 1 a.m. in the morning, and I get the call to the coach's office. They're like, "We're sorry, but you're getting released." And so,
Yeah, and
um,
you were batting like 272, which is pretty solid.
in rookie ball, yes, but
Yeah.
when I got to low A, I struggled a little bit with the pitching and that type of stuff. And so that's where I was really starting to find my footing. But then again, if you put it in the perspective of minor league baseball, I was an unsigned free agent and I was competing against the top Nationals prospects that, like, for example, the Juan Soto trade was going down. Max Scherzer trade, I believe, was going down. So we were getting an influx of top
Yeah,
prospects
new
that were
talent.
coming
Mhm.
into single A baseball, right? Low A, high A baseball. So all of those positions were filled with people that were draft prospects. They were having millions of dollars signing bonuses. So, like, one of the biggest roles that I had to understand that I'd never experienced before was being a role player. Understanding in 6 games during the week, I was going to play 2 of them. I was going to come in and pinch hit a couple of games. And so, like, trying to mentally prepare, because when you're playing minor league baseball, you wake up at 8 a.m., you got to get to the field at 10 a.m., and you don't leave the field till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, right? And so that is your life. That is literally it for 6 days a week. And so, when I ended up getting released, it was this whole transition process of I had the opportunity to go play in Japan. I had the opportunity to play independent baseball if I wanted to. I had a bunch of different opportunities like that. The Japan one was very intriguing to me for sure, just because to experience that. But the deciding factor was the Nationals gave me a full ride in my master's. And so, like, I'm big. My mom, grounded me in terms of like my education, my schooling, making sure that I'm good in that aspect as well. And so I was very set up for success when it comes to marketing for that reason. And so that was the reason why I kind of took a step back from baseball. And I've been getting calls, like the Savannah Bananas reached out to me before I got on the show, like that type of stuff. So it's very cool how it's kind of coming around full circle. But after I got done with baseball, I had the opportunity to play, but I also just wanted to kind of get started with, I guess, my career outside of baseball, right? And so I'm very fortunate because a lot of guys, a lot of teammates that I've played with, a lot of guys that I know, they're kind of stuck in that baseball world, that baseball circle. So they are playing independent baseball where they're getting
All right.
paid minimum wage, in South
Never
Dakota.
ending circle.
Yeah, it's like they're in the middle of cornfields trying to, survive and try and figure it out, right? And so I just didn't want my entire life to be defined by baseball, because that's what it was up to that point. And so I was willing to take that next step and that was essentially marketing for me. So yeah.
Well, if you're ever looking to get back into the game, Nick and I can use you on our softball team.
Yeah.
Couple of
I got
championship appearances and losses over the
I'm
last
sure
three
Zach
or
will be
so
crushing the
years.
ball.
It's funny because I played softball once after I got done with baseball, and it was like the home run limit is so stupid to me. And like, like you can only have a certain amount of home runs. I got a text literally last night from one of my friends being like, "Bro, these guys are cheating in slow pitch softball. We need you on our team," that type of stuff. So so
Happens.
yeah.
That's
So
you know
yeah,
how that
it's
feels.
yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So yeah.
So you got that charm translated to marketing. Let me ask you a question. Do you get your charm side from which side of the family?
Probably my mother. My
Okay.
mom is an incredible woman. She raised me right. She told me what I need to do when it comes to my relationships, my people, and she's got that Filipino flavor to her. So whenever I take a step out of line or whatever, she kind of knocks me upside the head to kind of get me recentered, I guess is the best way to describe it. So yeah, I would say definitely my mom had a massive impact. But I'm a pastor's kid, so like like my dad instilled a ton of morals and values into me growing up, and he's definitely the person that I would say that I lean on whenever I need advice or words of wisdom and that type of stuff. So
So you talk about your Filipino lineage, right?
yeah,
Representing Filipino-Americans on television, doing that this season
yeah.
for Big Brother. How did that make you feel?
It was an honor because I met Rubina after I got done with the show, and the first thing she said was, "Thank you for representing all of Asians, all of Asian American people so well." Right? She was like, "Thank you for being such a great step in that process, and just really representing us well, and just being honest, being having such great integrity on the show, that type of stuff." And so that meant the world to me. The honor of going on that show, and I had my entire mom's side. They're in the Philippines. They were staying up watching the live show, so it was like 8 a.m. their time, right? That they're like staying and watching the show, and so it was really cool to see the warmth and the embrace from all the Filipino community, like DMing me. I had like videos sent to me of like Filipino watch parties and that type of stuff. And so it was really a great experience. And I would say the embrace that I've had after the show has been unbelievable when it comes to it. So I'm honored. I really am honored.
So we just went into an interview here in 20 minutes. We didn't talk about Big Brother at all. So this got to be a first for you. But
It's a
we'll
first.
have to
It is.
ask you,
Yeah.
what made you decide to apply, and what was it like when you got cast? And I'm curious, like the the packing for what'd you pack? Because so a few of you guys were in the same sweatshirt there in the house.
Oh my goodness. So first off, I did not apply. I was fortunate enough to be reached out to. So my uh like show life has been crazy over the last year. I've had a bunch of different opportunities where I got to like the final audition. I flew out to Spain to be an alternate for a different show. I was supposed to be on a different show in March, The Bachelorette, and then they ended up postponing the show. So there
Oh,
Oh,
was yeah, so there was a lot of stuff in my life where it's like
I
I
told
was
you
kind
you
of
were a
asking.
ladies' man.
I didn't think I was to that extent, right? But it's like whenever I'm the type of person, whenever I get an opportunity, I say yes to everything, right? And so there was a bunch of different opportunities where it's like I got to the very end or I would fly out and then it wouldn't happen. And so I think what was really cool about that process is you really connect with people, and they kind of fall in love with you, and then they kind of send your tape, for example, over to a different casting group, whatever, being like, Zach wasn't the correct puzzle piece for this show, maybe he can be it for that show, right? And so I was fortunate with Big Brother. They reached out to me. I love Survivor is my thing. So I wasn't 100% familiar with Big Brother. I knew what Big Brother was, but I remember in that process asking them, how close is it to Survivor? And they're like, it's basically Survivor, but you're in a house, which is the furthest thing from the truth that I've ever heard in my entire life, right? And so, the casting process, I was very fortunate through this, through everything to get to where I was. To answer your question about packing was one of the most difficult things that I had to figure out because, first off, half of my luggage got confiscated because like you're not allowed to wear white stuff, you're not allowed to wear stripes, you're not allowed to do all that. So before you get into the house, they take all that stuff
yeah,
away
I
from
could
you.
see you being a big stripes guy. Striped
Right. I
button-down shirts.
There was one moment in the house where I did have a striped shirt with me, but I knew that with the cameras, it didn't look that great. So I remember holding it up to one of the cameras in the house, being like, "Hey guys, like, is this something that I'm allowed to wear?" And the camera literally shook its head no. So there's a lot of those moments. There's a lot of moments in the diary room
That's
where it's
funny.
like I was wearing a backwards hat, and they're like, "Hey Zach, we're gonna have to take that hat from you." So you're talking about like the reference to the hoodie where me, Jimmy, and Keanu all wore the same hoodie. I just want to make this very clear. I bought that hoodie from Target and brought it into the house. They, on the other hand, were given it because all of their hoodies got confiscated. So that's how we became like this trio of blue hoodie bros or whatever you want to call it. And
That would have been
it
some alliance, the Blue
yeah,
Hoodie
Blue Hoodie
Bros.
Bros.
well, at that point, Jimmy and Keanu did not like each other,
No.
so it
No.
was a very interesting situation to say the least. But yeah, I mean, I had a bunch of different hoodies that they confiscated, so every single time you see me in something, it's always that blue hoodie, right? So it was very funny. But yeah, I mean, packing was insane. I mean, it was crazy for the show.
So you had a lot of great synergy, I think, with a couple of house guests in particular. We're talking
Yeah.
about Zay, we're talking about Lauren. However, as the season went on, we see Morgad, the comp beast, all of a sudden beast out, get to the final three in the game. She was interested in you, right? And again, you are Zach, the ladies' man. So is there a little bit of regret there, not really having more conversations? Now, I don't know if you wanted to get into a showmance or not, right? I don't know if that was part of your strategy. But do you kind of regret not really speaking to her a little bit more, considering how the rest of the season unfolded with Ashley, Vince, and Morgan getting to the final three?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing with me, with Morgan, first off, I give her props, right? She played an incredible game, and I feel like if Ashley actually took her to the end, Morgan would have won, right? So
Yeah.
she was running the game in terms of social. She was turning into Casey in terms of she's becoming this massive comp beast towards the end of the show, and I had two final threes, so it was me, Vince and Lauren, me, Vince and Morgan, right? And so the reason why I didn't use the power was to protect Morgan, right? Is she
Yep.
was going to be the fourth nom. And so, I ended up revealing that information to her after the fact to try to get closer to her. Let's be real, right? It's one of those things where, we did have those final threes. And so, it's one of those things. It's so interesting in Big Brother because I was talking about this with other house guests that had left. It was only like 2 or 3 weeks where everything went smoothly. Blockbuster has such a big factor in all of this, where it's like, initially a lot of people wanted Keanu out of the house, right? But because of the opportunities and how good he is in competitions, it made such a massive twist, which as a fan, I really liked. In the house, I despised it. I hated it more than anything that I could have ever imagined, right? And so going back to your question about, trying to work close with Morgan, I mean, I was not interested whatsoever in trying to get into this showmance with her. I made it very clear I was interested in Lauren, right? And so like I made that very clear to everybody. There was even a moment where I really appreciate Ashley. She sat me down. She's like, Zach, I think you're inadvertently leading her on. Like you're not trying to, but because you're spending time with her, it's causing, this kind of like situation to happen in the house. And I respect her so much for that because it allowed me to have more awareness and to try and take a step back in terms of that aspect. Because more than anything on the show or anything like that, I do not want to lead anybody on, right? In that aspect, because you're playing with people's, like lives, right? And how they feel and their emotions. And so to answer your question about like, should I have been closer with Morgan? I think I was properly situated with Morgan. I think Big Brother is such a crazy game where, for example, they can have an elimination comp and then Rachel Riley goes home for no reason whatsoever, right? And so that's what's crazy about Big Brother. There's so many different twists. There's so many like final conversations that changes things. And so like we're sitting here talking about Morgan being able to get through this whole process and everything like that. But anybody could have ended up in those final threes based off of one conversation that happened in the house, right? So I think everything happens for a reason. Hindsight's always 2020, but no, I feel like I was properly situated with Morgan when it came to a game sense and us trying to work together.
So you basically saying Morgan. Now you shouldn't walk away with your head down because you're the fourth biggest winner of the season. You won the fourth most amount of money. So what have you done with that $10,000? Have you booked some flights? You're doing some travel? What are you doing with that money you pocketed?
Well, I
How
am
much was
currently.
taken? How much was taken from taxes?
Oh, well, first off, I'm still waiting for them to give us all the checks. They're giving it to
Oh,
us very, very soon. But
all
no,
right.
I mean, I'm taking time to travel. So currently, right now, I'm in Louisiana right now. And so like the biggest thing that I want to do is go to Wimbledon with my mom. We're
Ooh.
massive tennis fans. I loved Rafael Nadal. She loves Nadal as well. Of course, he's retired now. So we've kind of fallen in love with Carlos Alcaraz. And so that was probably like the first thing where my mom and I really bonded together in terms of like sports. Like we would watch it nonstop. Roger Federer back in the day, like everything. And so that was the first person that I thought of when it came to the opportunity to receive $10,000. And so I definitely want to take her on that trip that I've talked to her about for years now. We were talking about it like in college when I was back in college. So that is the number one thing probably that I want to do with the $10,000.
All right. Very well. Very well. And listen, I think the U.S. Open I'd recommend as well if you ever
There you
make the
go.
trip here.
Save a
That's
little bit of dough and just go to the
very
U.S. Open.
expensive for the U.S. Open. You're probably spending like the 10,000 on one ticket.
There you
So
go. Fair
that's
enough. So
crazy.
we're worried about Wimbledon, right? We
Yeah,
should be
go to
focused on the U.S. Open.
Wimbledon. Go to Wimbledon. So
I hear you.
uh, a lot of surprises and twists, like you mentioned, in the game. But what was something that surprised you the most about the house in particular, or just the setting, the stage, and the living accommodations and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest surprise, I would say, I mean, there's days, of course, where we're not allowed to go to the yard, like the backyard, right? And so, I would say the biggest struggle, the biggest surprise was being inside for like 3 to 4 days on a given week and not being able to move around. There was a moment in the house where I would not say going insane, but I was losing it, right? And so I remember grabbing the Bible and trying to find just one open room to sit down and like read it by myself.
Yeah,
And in that moment, there was no room whatsoever. The only opportunity was to go sit on the toilet and read it by myself because everybody was sitting, having like one-on-ones, having game conversations and everything like that. And so I would say like that was the biggest surprise to me heading into the house because I had just mentioned earlier that, I had 7 roommates in minor league baseball, but you still had like a room closed off to where you could kind of breathe a little bit, And so I would say like with the Big Brother house, it's nonstop 24/7. So you a lot of times don't have that opportunity to
right.
breathe. And so if you're asking in terms of like what was like the with the house specifically, I think that the coolest spot to hang out was like upstairs in that loft area with the blue sofa right outside the HOH room. I think the worst designed
Big
room.
chess matches going on down
Big old
there.
chess matches, yeah, yeah, and then we ended up losing all the chess people early on. So yeah, no, I would say that was the coolest room. I think the worst room was the HOH room because I couldn't stand the nonstop red just staring me in the face.
Yeah.
Like it was just so, it
I
drove
Yeah.
didn't
me,
like I didn't like the HOH room this year.
it
At
drove me insane. I thought the swiveling like,
door for
it
the
wasn't a
bathroom,
door, yeah, to the
the
bathroom was really
wall.
cool, but yeah, the
So, I
wall,
mean,
but
Zach, you're a big fitness guy, so we saw you out there pumping the iron outside. But what was the inside gym like? How were you able to stay in shape? Because we had other people on. Most notably, we had Matt Klatz on it, and
yeah.
he said like he gained like 30, 40. He was at the end 30, 40 pounds because he couldn't get a proper exercise in. He was eating poorly. So, what was
Yeah.
your experience like exercising when you were indoors in that little boxing ring gym?
Oh my goodness. Well, I went the opposite way. So like my thing is trying to keep weight on. So after I got out of the show, I went in weighing 215 pounds. I came out weighing like 204, 205.
Oh
And
wow.
so it was one of those things. First off, Zay was like my workout guy. Like we worked out consistently together. I work out well whenever I'm working out in duos or whatever. And so when he left, Keanu obviously is big into fitness, but he's more kettlebell. So it's like I was kind of on my own in a sense. And it was really tough. And also, I love listening to music as well. Obviously, you're not allowed to have music in the house. So that workout room upstairs drove me insane because multiple times I would be working out, for example, and then people would try and walk in to have one-on-one conversations in there, and it almost felt like I was intruding on them when I
Right.
was the first one in the room, right? And so, that was it was frustrating for sure. And also, it's like not a proper gym, right? So you got dumbbells, you got up to 50 pounds, but it's almost like it gave me hotel workout vibes. And I never do well in hotel workout vibes. I'm going to be so honest with you guys. So I would say, I kind of had to tell myself when I was in the house, it's like fitness is secondary. Obviously, you're playing the game. So it's like whatever you look at, like by the end of the show, it is what it is, right? So if I made it all the way to the end, I'd probably look very scrawny. I have no idea. So, but yeah, the workout room upstairs drove me insane. That's why I always try to take advantage of the gym outside because you had like a
Yeah.
barbell and that type of stuff.
Now you mentioned him, Zay, quite the bromance. You shed a few tears for him when he left.
Yeah.
The Burger Bros kind of got burnt. I don't know what happened there, but we talk to us first about your relationship with Zay, how you guys bonded initially, and also we had him on, and then we're looking back now. The game actually really changed dramatically just by getting him out of the house. It kind of changed things. So talk to us about Zay, your buddy Zay.
Yeah, I mean, first off, Zay is he's such a good dude. He really is. Like we keep in contact every day. He's one of my guys. Like I saw him back at the finale night. Like we were chilling at an Airbnb together, all that types of stuff. But he really is such a great guy. I would say with like our friendship, it's very, like we just talk about everything under the sun. He's that type of guy. But yes, we're talking about Zay in the house. Um, you know, he's such a big personality. And what's crazy is I haven't seen the initial episodes. When I got evicted, I paid attention to the episodes after I got evicted. I watched the live feed, so I've never gone back to see what happened. But with Zay, the first 3 days before feeds, he was telling us stories that I actually can't even tell you guys on this podcast. Like he's been in such insane situations.
Yeah, I
I
mean, well,
can't even.
as the Mormon missionary, he was out there. So
It was unbelievable. Even after that, like I mean, he's this crazy figure to where I'm like, I understand why you're on reality TV because of just
yeah,
how you are as a
you
person.
didn't watch, but then they had him in the diary room, like talking in Spanish. It was good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if he had stayed longer, he would have been such a big personality, a big impact in the house. And when he left, the house really got more quiet. I mean,
Yeah,
you can say that for some people, but for
right.
him, in my
He
opinion,
came
it
to play the
was
right way. I mean, he
yeah,
he was he was looking to target Rachel. He was looking to target Ashley. Like right off the bat, no one else was going to do it. Everyone was afraid. And what
yeah,
and if Rachel didn't decide to go on the hamster wheel, she probably would have walked to a victory. So Zay
yeah.
was playing a bold game. I liked his strategy, but I guess it was a little too bold that he everyone was afraid of him in the first week.
Yeah, he played a very bold game. I would say he probably played it too bold in week one because you've got 3 months of gameplay if you're trying to play it. And what was very unique in our house was nobody wanted to really talk game week one, which was interesting. You're just trying to get to know everybody, make those connections. Who do you feel comfortable about? You're like uncomfortable saying who you feel comfortable about to other people, right? So you're trying to, balance that out. But I would say Zay, yeah, he was such a good friend to me in the house. Like when he got evicted and I start bawling like a baby in the diary room, like those were real tears, guys. I'm being so for real. And it was one of those things where, you know, I guess that was like the first realization that it's like, dang, we actually lost somebody, and it was such a good friend to me. And it was also one of the first alliances that I had built, and it's all that types of stuff. That's where all the emotions really came from. And yeah, when he got evicted, it's kind of like you have to pivot, you have to figure out what's next, all that types of stuff. But no, Zay's an awesome dude. And yeah, he's doing really well right now. So he's doing really well.
So let's talk about you and Lauren for a second because you guys have been seen together after the show. You've taken pictures together. Now, I don't necessarily recall the week that you went out if she actually voted to evict you or not and kind of aligned with the house.
Yeah,
But
I
talk
think she
about
did.
what I think she did, right? I don't,
yeah,
I sincerely don't remember.
yeah,
However, that was a game move.
yeah,
Well, you understand that's a game move, so you
for
guys
sure.
move on. Again, there's really, like I mentioned before, you had really great synergy when it came to Zay and when it came to Lauren in the house. So,
Yeah.
talk about what's going on, after the house, between you and her.
Yeah, I mean, first off, she's the most genuine person that I've ever met in my entire life, and I'll say that 10 toes down. I would say I told her when the week that I got evicted, I told her countless times, I was like, do what's best for your game. Like, seriously, I was like, I do not care. You have to do what's best for your game. Because, like, she was so close with both me and Vince in the house, right? So it's one of those decisions. It's like 50-50. You're basically tossing a coin. And so I knew in that situation that both Morgan and Mickey had a lot of say in the house, right? So that's the reason why I revealed. First off, Morgan was going to be the fourth nom, so that's the reason why I revealed the power to her to be like, I'm with you. You know what I mean? Like I'm here. I'm telling you this. I saved you like from being on the block. Blah blah blah. And I knew that if I could potentially get both Morgan and Mickey, the rest of the people in the house potentially could have gone with them in terms of the vote if it ever came down to me and Vince, which it unfortunately did, right? And so yeah, I mean, that was, when I talked to Lauren about that, I totally understand it's a game move and I don't blame her whatsoever for it. She's got to do what's best for her. But outside the house, it's great. I mean, I'm currently in Louisiana to see her. Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, I was out of the house for like 5 to 6 weeks or however long I was out, and she was still in the house the entire time. So, there's always that question of, like, how does she feel about me? Is Zach like in a relationship outside of the house? Like, there's so many different things that you just don't know. So, the number one priority that I've been trying to make is just like get comfortable again, figure out life, like see where she's at in life, like see where I've been in life outside of the house. The first thing I told her when I was on stage, I walked up to her and I was like, I just want to let you know that I was your number one fan. I was your Lauren stan. I defended you everywhere. I was like on live talking about you, all that types of stuff. And so, yeah, I did not want the perception to be that I kind of like swayed from her at any way, shape, or form. And so yeah, that's where things are at right now. We're kind of taking it, day by day. And yeah, she's great though. She's really awesome.
And here I thought it was just South Carolina and LSU as of this recording tomorrow. They're playing in Death Valley over there.
Yeah,
Uh, but you keep mentioning the power, so I just want to touch on this one last time because I
yeah.
really think you not using the power is probably, I think, really even more so than Rachel going in the hamster wheel, the
Mhm.
moment the game changed. Because
Mhm.
if you use the power with the way that Vince won competitions in the second half of the game, like more, and there's a really good chance that you, Lauren, and Vince are sitting in the final three, as opposed to
Yeah,
Vince,
Yeah,
Ashley.
Morgan was out if Zach used the power.
Right. So,
yeah.
do you agree with that?
I it's so guys, it's so tough to say because the reason why I say it's tough to say is sorry, I got a call. Hold on 1 second.
No worries.
It
So
messed up my phone. Sorry. Um, can you restate that question again? Sorry.
You keep mentioning the power. As a Big
Yes.
Brother super fan, I have to ask you, right? Because I really think that even more so, like I said, than Rachel going in the hamster wheel, you not using the power changes the game. If you
Mm,
use the power, Morgan probably leaves, and it's probably you, Vince, and Lauren in the
mm,
final three. And
yeah.
she's sitting pretty because Vince wanted to take her to the final two, and you were going to
Mhm.
take her to the final two. Do you agree with that assessment, yes or no?
I would say I would say in terms of Morgan going home that week, there was a good chance that she was. But the thing with Big Brother is that I didn't think that I was going home up until I realized after I had the opportunity to use the power, right? I was talking to everybody before I had the opportunity. I asked them, am I in danger? Like, what are your thoughts on me? All this type of stuff. I asked like every single person. They said, Zach, you're totally fine. You're a pawn. Like, we're gunning for both Keanu and Vince because Vince was, he had all these different relationships, all these different working relationships. And I'm like, okay, I feel good. And so, after I had the opportunity, things changed. So I say this as if Morgan was on the block, there's probably a good chance that she does go home, but things changed so drastically in
you
that
never know.
house.
You never know.
So it's like
Yeah.
she could have won that puzzle comp, right? So it's
Right.
like she could have stayed in the game. And so I would say it did change the game. It did dictate a lot of things, but I told myself because all of my alliances up to that point had blown up. Burger Boys blew up. Heavy Hitters blew up. The Bond blew up. So I had three really solid alliances that I felt really good about. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to trust my two final threes, which were me, Morgan, and Vince, and then me, Morgan, and Lauren. Or I'm sorry, me, Vince, and Lauren, right? So those were my two final threes. And I was so fed up with all the alliances not working out. I'm like, these are my ride or dies. And if anybody has the potential to go on the block for me, I'm like, you know, I'd rather just ride it out and see what happens. And honestly, if Vince wasn't on the block with me, I would have used that power as well. It's the fact that we still would have had two people in both of my final threes that would be sitting there on the block with a good chance of going home, right? Because that's an extra vote. If there's just one, there's an extra vote for that person to stay. All that types of stuff. And so I would say, with that whole situation, I told myself if it was Lauren as the fourth nom, if it was Vince as the fourth nom, if it was Morgan as the fourth nom, it would be really tough for me in that situation to use it if there was another person that I really cared about on the block as well. So that was my thought process in that moment. And did it burn me? Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sitting here talking to you guys about it, right? But it was one of those things too where Rachel won HOH the week after I got evicted. Probably was going to be on the block for her HOH, right? So
Yeah.
there would have been three people. I would have used the power to take myself off. Then we have a fighting chance with two people on the block, right? So that was kind of my thought process in that moment. It was a big, huge gamble. And it's unfortunate that we faced off against the comp beast Keanu, right? So, so there's so many different things that could have happened. But yeah, I would say, yeah, the season would look a lot different if I had used the power for sure.
All right, last Big Brother question from me. Vince and Ashley were the final two. Now, there's a little bit of a discrepancy here because Nick, despite the fact that Vince had a lot of working relationships, Nick thinks he played the better game. He would have voted for him. I'm on the Ashley side of things simply because I think when it came to the end, the questions. I don't think Vince really owned his game enough to the jury. Now, if you were in the jury, how would you have casted your vote?
Um, it would have been, man, goodness. I would say I would probably vote for. The thing is that I was so close to Vince in the game. Like Morgan voted for Vince, right? So if I'm trying to sit there unbiasedly, I feel like Vince did not. He obviously did not do enough to like build those relationships with people in jury. Ashley did. Ashley's social game, she won when it counted, right? She won when she desperately needed to. And then she has such good relationships in the jury. So I felt like Ashley definitely deserved to win in that moment. And also she just crushed her speech. We were sitting there in the pre-jury like waiting room before we went on stage, and like our mouths were like gaping open. We're like, oh my gosh, she's owning this, she's crushing it. And Vince, like you said, I feel like he did not own his game enough. If he just came super vulnerable, being like, yeah, I had all these different working relationships to get to this point. I did this, that, and the other. I know that there were people in jury wanting him. If he was the one to take out Morgan, there would have been a different topic of conversation. He would have had a much greater chance to win. In that aspect, I think he would have won because he did the move necessary to take out the. Ashley was able to sit there and be like, I took out the front runner of this season, right? She was able to do that in that moment. And so I felt
Yeah.
like that had such a big impact on the jury, and kind of talking to people. I feel like that was a massive move. I know Keanu was very vocal about that as well. He's like, if Vince is able to take out Morgan, then there's a very good chance that he has my vote, right? So there's a lot of those different situations. But I give all the props to Ashley for being able to win when it counted. And then she was so good in her final speech, and a ton of people in jury loved her. A ton of people loved her. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people in the jury didn't like Vince.
I
So
mean, let's
I
be.
think, but see, Vince made a good point in his speech, but he really didn't emphasize enough. But he said, basically he's saying with great power comes great responsibility. He was HOH 4 times. He put the whole house, he literally almost put everybody in the house on the block. He had no choice but to. And he
Yeah.
did kind of own that, but Ashley was a lot stronger in her speech. And Vince's like epic meltdown in the HOH at the end against Ashley. I mean, that ultimately did him and Morgan in. So it is what it is, and you just got to
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah, I mean, you could, let's be real. We could tell, the pre-jury at least could tell, like the questions they were asking Vince compared to Ashley, they're more targeted at Vince, like
Definitely,
they're.
yeah. So
So I
those
mean, it's like
producers, they got in
at
the
that,
way.
yeah, I mean, at that point, you're thinking, well, we know what's going to happen
Once you
at
saw
this
the
point.
question, once you heard the questions that I don't think they wrote for themselves, you could tell it was being set up for Ashley to win. I'm surprised that I thought it maybe was going to be closer, but you know, Vince still won some money, so congratulations to Vince.
Yeah,
Uh,
congrats
you
to
know,
Vince.
he did
Absolutely.
he did what he had to do. Now moving on back to you, Zach, in your life or your career. What has been your I'm right moment? So what I mean by that, it's a time or place where you wanted to pursue something. You asked somebody for advice. They said, Zach, sounds like a bad idea. I wouldn't do it. It's not going to work out. You said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. And in the end, you will see why it is that I'm right about this. And I can tell you, I told you so.
That's a really good question. I would just say the continuous opportunities that I had to be on reality TV. I mean, I'm not kidding. So, not this past December, the December before that is when this all started, right? Like, I had the opportunity. I flew out to Spain as an alternate. It didn't happen. People are like, well, you wasted 2 weeks of your life. I burned through all my PTO just to do that. I had the opportunity then to potentially go on different shows. I got to the final audition. It didn't happen. They're like, Zach, you probably need to like hang it up. It's like, what are you doing? You're wasting your time, right? And so I had the opportunity for The Bachelorette. I was in the auditioning process for like 4 months, and then all of a sudden they postponed the show, and people are like, okay, it's time, Zach. Like, it's time to give it up. But I have always been under the assumption that God has blessed me with the talents and abilities that I have, to where it's like I feel like I have to put myself in those uncomfortable positions to like really take that step forward. And that's where you see the most growth in life, right? And so I felt that continuing down this road, I was going to reap the rewards sooner or later. And I've seen it after Big Brother, right? It's one of those things where, you get on the show and you see the overwhelming support. And I'm so blessed because I do have multiple options now that the show's done in terms of career, life, trajectory, wherever I want to go. And so it really is like I'm trying to keep my options open right now. I'm not trying to jump into anything because it's like continuously I have things popping up where it's like, do you want to work together? Do you want to collab? Like anything like that. And so yeah, I would definitely say that was my moment in terms of I could have hung it up over a year ago, but we stuck true to who we were, and we really trusted that process. And I feel like I'm a better person coming out of the house now because of it. So
Well, Zach, we cannot wait to see what is next for you.
thank you.
Definitely going to be very entertaining wherever you go. So once again, thank you for doing this with us. Good luck with everything. Enjoy
Absolutely.
Louisiana, enjoy the Bayou, enjoy what's coming up. Hopefully we see you in person soon moving forward. Maybe next summer at the cast party, at the premiere party. So what we do here is we always give our guests the last word. So if there's anything else you would personally like to share or promote, by all means, go ahead. But once again, we really, really appreciate you doing this with us, Zach, and we had a really great time.
Yeah, I mean, hey guys, if you want to see Zorn content, then follow me on zcorn_29 Instagram, TikTok. I'm posting a lot. You know, I hang out with Mickey. I hang out with a lot of people from like BB alum, everything like that. And so I love the Big Brother community. It's been great. And so I love to be highly involved. So if you want to see what's going on with everybody from our season, just give me a follow. So thank you guys so much though for letting me come on. And yeah, let me know more information about
Yeah.
that watch party in October.
And
That sounds a
Zach,
lot of fun.
everyone could donate to your cause right now for Over the Edge Global, right? Tell everybody how to do that.
Absolutely. So I have not started to promote it yet, but I talked with Mickey, and it's going to be the same foundation that Mickey has. So she has a 404 foundation. And so when we get to Over the Edge, we're really going to try and promote that once I get everything situated. I actually have to give her a phone call to make sure that I'm sending the correct link when I post it on all my stories, but it will
Just
be up
check
there.
Zach's social media. It'll be there.
It will be there. It
Money
will be
for a
there.
good cause.
Absolutely. And if you guys want to hang out in Orlando, I'll be down there in December, early December for
There's
Over
a
the Edge.
there's a chance we'll be there. So
Yes.
that's
Love
gonna
it.
do it here for this episode of You Know I'm Right for our very special guest, Zach Cornell. My co-host Joe Calabrese. I'm Nick Durst, and this has been You Know I'm Right.